r/AskReddit, what's a company secret you can share now that you don't work there? I used to work for a company that rhymes with Musbeat, and we used to have somebody post this question every few months for material for one of our clickbait articles. They are out of business now, but in the early 90s I worked at Radio Shack for a year and a half. When people would return an item because it didn't work, the manager of the store would just box it back up and sell it again as if it were new. When I asked him about it, he said, "Hopefully they will return it to a different store." I nearly got fired when I refused to sell a guy a walkie-talkie CB radio that I knew didn't work. The guy was on his way out for a hunting trip and was buying 3 of these for him and his friends. We had 2 and the third was the broken one. In front of the customer, I told the manager that one didn't work and I had tested it. The guy was happy. I told him, we arranged for him to get the last one he needed at a different store, and off he went. The manager was livid with me and nearly fired me. "I'm sorry, I'm not sending people out into the forest with gear I know doesn't work." Hilariously, a few months later the manager was caught stealing from the store and got fired. *Edit, well, I didn't expect this to blow up like this. It's pretty funny. My highest upvoted comment is about my shitty past job. Used to work at a graphic design firm. All our Adobe software was pirated. I used to work surveillance at a casino. From something like 3 stories high ceiling, we could zoom in on money on the table games and read the serial numbers of the bills. We could see the pips on the dice. Policy was to not look down blouses. Government-funded refugee advocacy agencies at a time were approving a disproportionate amount of young women, 18 to 25, from Syria and Iraq with sexual assault history for their services. Upon further investigation, I and my team discovered consultants from said agency were engaging in sexual relationships with these girls. They were denying them opportunities of employment to keep them in financial destitution purposely. When the girls became desperate, the offer of private prostitution was made by the consultants. I whistle blew to the organization heads. They thanked me and the consultants were gone the next day. Huge meeting with senior board. Apologies, this isn't the way we do things. Speeches blah blah blah. And within 3 months me and the other 6 other complainants and investigators had all resigned from the company for different reasons. On paper it looks coincidental, in reality we were all individually pushed out. 2 of the consultants that we uncovered were doing the worst were not fired. They were given the option to resign and are currently working at other agencies with vulnerable young women. Maple sap can be trucked in from other states, and where it's turned from sap to syrup decides on the state it comes from, not the location of the trees. Inbound call center. Though we are currently experiencing an unusually high call volume, message is permanent. They just didn't staff adequately. Olive Garden breadsticks are just Franz brand breadsticks, garlic salt and butter ETA, it's margarine, not butter. I forgot there is a difference. I worked as a dog groomer for a summer. We gave your dog a treat even if they weren't good. If you don't hear music when you're supposedly on hold, the operator simply muted their mic and can still hear you. I've heard interesting and damning things while they thought I couldn't hear them. Worked in insurance. Hundreds of people have access to your SSN with no security clearance or background check. Worked at a major cable/ISP and their 4 billing cycles. They upgraded the billing system, but did something wrong, and all but the current cycle got a late charge. But instead of fixing it immediately, we were told to credit their account if the customer called in. I did the math, and for the size of our city, and the 3/4 of people wrongly charged, it was over $1 million USD. Most people just pay their bill and don't look to close. Edit, it was Time Warner, which was bought out a couple times in my area. If you were on live chat with customer care, I could see what you were typing before pressing send. I watched people work through grotesque, racist, sexist statements, fraudulent lies and mistruths, meticulous grammar fixes, and their whole range of emotions in real time before deleting and typing OK. Arby's manager replaced the expiration stickers on the bread with new ones. I guess so the bread would last longer that way. I threw out 100 plus pitas with green fuzz on them after checking the manager's work. I worked for a restoration company. One time an elderly woman called them to clean her house. She was a hoarder or there had been a fire. I can't remember. Anyway, the company charged $57,000 for the work to be done, but in actuality they couldn't even get the charges to add up to $20,000. She couldn't file this on her insurance. There are other examples of gross overcharging, but this is the worst I know of that wasn't on the large loss side. The lesson here: if you have water, fire, mold, or hoarder damage and call in a company to clean it up, go through every line item on the invoice. Every single one. Your luggage at an airport isn't really handled with care. I worked for a large construction company and the sales guys would intentionally omit items from contracts because they received incentives for what would then become a change order. Me, you forgot to include any framing in this contract, sales weasel. Oh, I guess it's a change order then. Asterisk customer cries. The difference between the high-quality deli meat sold at M and the regular deli meat sold in other grocery stores is that we changed the label. We would literally stop the production line, wait for the guy who ran the label machine to swap them out and then start it back up again. Hotels do not typically have security, maintenance, or housekeeping on staff 24/7. Once housekeeping finishes cleaning all the rooms, the entire staff leaves except for one front desk employee. The secret ingredient of Jimmy John's tuna salad is soy sauce. Edit, Kiko Man soy sauce specifically. And yes, fuck the owner for what he does to animals. Worked at Best Buy 20 years ago. Employee discount was 5% over cost and I needed a new printer. Decided to splurge on the gold-plated USB printer cable that we sold for $40. Rang up $1.78. The stain protector is only useful if you actually file a claim. It isn't a magic fucking potion. Most furniture companies sell some sort of stain protector as an add-on. People buy it, thinking it has some magic ability to prevent stains over the life of a piece of upholstery, then, 5 years later, spill some Kool-Aid on that shit, and the stain doesn't come out. With most of these protectors, there's a warranty claim process that will get you a new sofa, or a new set, if your sofa pattern isn't made anymore, but nobody ever files a claim. That's the gimmick. The company is counting on you not actually holding them to the deal that they made you, and virtually nobody does. One of our best restaurant in my town is locally famous and everyone goes there. They say everything is homemade. The thing they are famous for is the hot beef sandwiches, with homemade potatoes and gravy. And the fish fry. The fish fry they also have during the week listed as an entree called the cod platter. It is instant Cisco brown gravy mix and instant Cisco mashed potatoes. The cod is only fresh and fried on Fridays. If you order it during the week it is frozen breaded Cisco fish fillets, aka a blend of random fish shaped into a stick. Skull. The vehicle modification shop at Chillicothe Correctional Institution in Chillicothe, Ohio dumps waste coolant from the machine shop into a storm drain that empties directly into the Scioto River, because the chemical disposal tank is a 55-gallon drum in the paint shop, and that's much too small. They can't throw me into solitary confinement for complaining anymore. Edit, this happens about once a year, when the machine's coolant reservoirs are emptied and the coolant replaced. It's not on a schedule, it's one of those things that you do when work is slow. Each machine holds 15 to 20 gallons, and usually you just add more as it evaporates, but eventually it gets nasty and needs replaced. It's supposed to go in a waste tote to be disposed of safely, which is what every non-government machine shop does. Being able to prove this is being done would require knowing when they're going to do this, and that's a decision that's often made spur of the moment. Hey, work is slow, let's have a clean-up day. There aren't any phones in the machine shop, either. Edit 2, a container to store the waste properly costs $200. Why waste taxpayer money when we can just poison the taxpayers instead? In the United States, one company's bread and butter was simply rebosing and relabeling computer monitors from China to make it seem like they were from the company and made/assembled in some way by them. I'm 90% sure a company I worked for was importing product from China, repacking it and selling it as made in USA. i.e. blending it with the product we did make in the US. I worked for a major hotel chain in housekeeping for over 10 years. The number of suicides and people who die naturally in their rooms is a lot higher than you'd think. I worked at a huge convention hotel with over 1,000 rooms and it happened quite often. Unless it was a pretty gnarly mess, it would just get cleaned like normal and the next guest had no idea. Ice manufacturing, my shift manager dropped a 7-gram bag of weed in a bag of ice. It went out for delivery. No one ever phoned in to complain though. All new clothing and everything you try on is dirty. I've worked in retail for years and it still shocks people, but there's no washing machine or disinfectant spray or wipes. Nothing. I've opened boxes of new clothes that had white bugs coming out of it. Seen woman after a workout class come and try clothes on, then just leave still sweaty from the class. One older lady left dime-size skin flakes in the clothes she tried on. Not to mention whatever happens when they return the item or what happened in the factory. People are gross, nothing is clean, always wash your clothes when you get them home. When I worked at a Godiva store, we would turn expired chocolate bars into sample pieces. Chuck E. Cheese isn't a real mouse. If you lived in Brandon, Florida from 07-09, it was actually me. We sometimes made up letters to the editor. Everyone's favorite sauce that people wanted the recipe for was mostly mayonnaise. Sure, it was called creamy pineapple sauce, but it's just pineapple salsa and mayonnaise. If you pick up a wall phone at Home Depot and push 7, it activates the store-wide intercom. This works in every store in my province of Fake. Your warranty service part that took 8 months actually arrived 3 weeks after they paid the invoice. They didn't even order it for 7 months. They told you it was manufacturing delays and supply chain issues, but in reality they couldn't afford to pay their bills and had to pick and choose which orders to place. You weren't a priority. They were just really bad at budgeting and damage control. Ice machines are disgusting inside, full of slime. Movie theaters don't make money off the tickets, they make money off the food and drinks. Despite this, 99.9% of theater staff give less than 0 shits if you sneak food in. All we ask is that you're subtle enough that we don't get yelled at by the 0.1% who cared. Inbound call center, there is no such thing as a silent hold. You are on mute. We could still hear you, but this isn't done maliciously so we can listen in. We had targets for hold time, and putting you on mute instead used 0 hold on that call and brought the average down. Sometimes we were asking a colleague for input, sometimes we were avoiding an awkward silence while the computer took forever to load. Personally, I did it a lot because I can fix your issue/account easier when you're not yapping in my ear with stupid questions. And also I might want to call the last person you spoke to some very bad words for messing it up or bullshitting you in the first place. I worked at a candy bagging warehouse like the crappy 99 gas station candy, where we would even make trail mix by hand. Tons of sweat would drip into the mix because we would be in a 100F+ room with little ventilation. Also, my boss was a hunter, so a quarter of the warehouse was dedicated to his taxidermy treasure room. Fucking smelled like shit in the summer, but he was so proud of himself. Edit, Also should add that if the expiration dates were bad we would use nail polish remover to take the date off. I used to work for a rural ISP. We had one access point with 13 customers, but only 12 IP addresses provisioned. This means only 12 out of 13 people could be online at any one time. Anytime a customer called from that service area, we'd log in and reboot the tower's radios, kicking everyone offline to force DHCP renewals. It always meant whomever was calling in was able to get an IP and get online, but we knew that if all 13 customers wanted to be online at once, we wouldn't be able to service them. I brought it up with management, but they deemed it too expensive to address. I explained that it made us look like a fly-by-night shady as hell outfit. Since it was a rural ISP, I knew I'm not just talking to one person either, I'm talking to him, his wife, dog, kids, priest and 5 buddies from the coffee shop. Make a bad impression on one person and you might as well take out an ad in their local paper calling the whole town assholes. I handed out a lot of free months of service working there and would often make the point credits aren't revenue for justifiability angry customers. Edits to answer the questions not Nortel, Comcast, Frontier, nor the one you're about to ask, but they are good guesses. Yes, it would have been an easy fix, but the GM was an accountant and cheap. This was one of our APS. We had 10,000 customers, not 13. Some APS, access points, had 80 subscribers connected to it, some had fewer. The larger APS were properly provisioned with more than enough addresses. This was a one-off tower but it was always our shame. Edit 2, the ISP no longer exists, but the company that bought it out has now been correctly guessed. Well done Reddit hive mind. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you have enjoyed this video and subscribe to never miss an upload.